Watch out for the Panthers. In the second of two starting episodes for Season 7, we preview the 2021-2022 season with reporters from the top teams in every division. We have all your divisional ranking predictions, breakout player for every single team. Now, the Eastern Conference. Hit the music. Welcome to Jablam Sports Hockey. I'm your host, Peter Bojaranov, and the mic is always on. It's your one-stop weekly shop for expert analysis on every single team. We are a fun hockey community, bringing everyone together. You can find me on Twitter now at pbojaranov, Bojarinov. V as in Victor, formerly at Russia98. You can find the full show at Jablam Sports. That's Jablam Sports. If you have any questions or comments, please tweet us. Use the hashtag at Jablam Sports. Please subscribe to us if you haven't done so yet, and click on those three dots in your podcasting app. Share our show with three hockey fans you know. Thank you, everyone. Remember, check out our website, www.jablamsports.com, for our podcasts and even game notes for each episode. You'll get all the links to everything we mentioned on this show, including guests. We've even got articles this year and much more content weekly. For our podcasts, click on podcasts on our website and then hockey on this show specifically, right on our website. Now, let's go back east. The place I better understand than yesterday's episode. We go with the Metropolitan Division first. Joining me to break the division now, of course, preview. Pick which player might be probably a breakout player for the team and how this division could end up. David Alter is here to join us. He's been covering hockey for how long now, David?
Oh, I don't know. A long time, over 10 years.
So you can read his work as he covers the Maple Leafs for the Hockey News. Welcome to the show, David. You can find him on Twitter at @DAlter. Also, my pal, David Dwork. He covers the Florida Panthers. You can get him there at David Dwork. From Boston, we've got Tim Rosenthal, managing editor at Bruins Daily. You can get him on the socials at _Tim Rosenthal. And least, but hopefully, especially in the standings, my buddy Blaine Potvin. You can find him on the Twitter thingamajig at Blaine Potvin _THW. So many old school journalists don't have the thingamajig, the socials. Alter, how many guys do you know that aren't on the socials yet? The old school guys, I guess.
There's a couple. Some people do it not because they don't know how to do it, but by choice. Some people, it's not a requirement for their job, so they just prefer the zen and serenity of not staring at their phones or computer screens or anything like that. But I don't judge. Whatever works for you.
Oh, I don't judge either, but it's a little bit. In today's world, I guess there's a lot of new guys jumping in our profession and getting out there, and it seems like it's a mandatory thing, even when you're trying to get in there. Why are all these experts joining me? Of course, to discuss their teams in the Metropolitan Division, and of course, they're gonna lose all to the Maple Leafs, except for maybe Alter's team. But of course, beat them when it matters. So the Bruins, Tim. Things have finally changed. The core is kind of changing. Of course, Big Z, we know, left. He's gone back to the Islanders. I think Milbury's turning over in his studio chair. But gone also is longtime Bruin David Krejci. How can they replace that solid two-way center down the middle?
Well, they're trying to find out that answer right now, and their initial reaction to that is putting Charlie Coyle in the middle between Taylor Hall and Craig Smith. And they gave Jack Studnicka a few reps up there. He's the 2017 second round draft pick, rose up the ranks, prospect ranks after the Bruins selected him. Had a bit of an off year last year after having a pretty good first season down in Providence, and he gained 15 pounds. And during camp, he didn't show any flashes of slowdown whatsoever. In fact, that weight gain actually, he said he became more explosive after gaining that much weight. He's been harder to get off pucks. I see him coming back to Boston in the long term, but for now, they're keeping Coyle with Smith and Hall, and you have some experience there. Coyle's a pretty versatile guy. He just came off knee surgery following probably the worst season of his tenure, at least from a Boston standpoint, after he arrived at the trade deadline. But right now, Charlie Coyle's going to be your answer. I don't think he's a bad short-term stopgap. In the past, he's played well in a top six role, but whenever injuries or any other circumstances occurred. But I think in the long run, you're going to see Studnicka there. Yeah, I think we're so used to everything last year, too. All the divisions last year.
Oh my goodness. I said Metropolitan Division at the top. It's the Atlantic Division, of course. I'm still confused upon the whole alignment thing. Getting back to normal slowly as the world does. The Atlantic Division, the Bruins do you think they can fight for the top spot? I know this division, just like what we had last year, it's tight. You don't know who could win it. Do you think they're a team that can compete with Tampa for the top spot?
Well, I don't know if anyone can right now, but they're certainly, I think, going to be in that 2-3-4 range. And you have a couple good regular season teams. Say what you want about the Maple Leafs during the playoffs, but they're a good regular season team. As we saw last year, even a couple of years ago, they put Boston on the brink of the second seed in the Atlantic before falling once again in 7 games. But you're going to have Florida in there as well. I know one of our panelists will speak glowingly of Florida, I assume, of what they did this offseason and what they did the last couple of years as well.
That's right. Dwork. The Panthers are looking better. I enjoyed how they played in the playoffs. That Sunrise series was phenomenal. I hope to see it again this spring.
Yeah, I bet the Maple Leafs would love to see the Panthers and the Lightning go up against each other in the playoffs and just beat the crap out of each other for 6-7 games again. No, I mean, it's after a long, long time of waiting for a lot of people here in South Florida, it is finally a good time to be a Panthers fan. I mean, not only do they have a great team, but it's a sustainable roster that should be good for years to come. And that's something that we've really never been able to say about the Panthers in their history. So, I mean, just top to bottom, one of the things that we've talked a lot about is just the depth that Bill Zito has really fortified. When he inherited this roster that had Barkov and Huberdeau and Ekblad and Sergei Bobrovsky and Mackenzie Weegar, he's really done a great job of adding pieces to it. You talk about like a guy like Patrick Hornquist. You talk, obviously, Sam Reinhart comes in. You think of Sam Bennett, who he acquired at the trade deadline, Brandon Montour or Gus Forsling, who he picked up off waivers last preseason, who's now earned a 3-year contract, and he's looking like a great top 4 defenseman. So really, it's just top to bottom a great Panthers team that the new GM Bill Zito has put together, and it's now all in the hands of Hall of Fame head coach Joel Quenneville to make it sing on the ice. And from what we saw last year and from what we're seeing so far this year between camp and the preseason, Florida looks like they're going to be a formidable team in that Atlantic Division.
Alter, down the middle, they've got Matthews, they've got Tavares, but on the wings, we've seen lots of changes. Of course, Zach Hyman, big deal, left to the Oilers. I know Leafs fans are upset there. Everybody does want to know, how good is Michael Bunting, his so-called replacement? Can he bandage that hole that Hyman left?
Yeah, I mean, like it's going to be interesting. I don't necessarily know that Michael Bunting is the 1-for-1 replacement for someone like Zach Hyman, because Hyman played primarily on the first line and sometimes on the third line. I think they've got Nick Ritchie in that spot for the short term here, and it looks like they're going to try him out there with Matthews and Marner, although Matthews will not play the first 3 games, and Marner is a game time decision for the season opener, although it looks like he could go. So it is tough to replace someone like a Zach Hyman, so they're trying a few different people by committee. That's why they got Andre Kasha and Nick Ritchie, who are both now qualified by Boston, and got some younger wingers there that they've got some years on control and at a lower cap hit. Michael Bunting had a good showing at the Worlds in a short period of time with the Arizona Coyotes, and so we'll see if that's still sustainable. But apart from that, they're probably their most stabilizing winger in that spot was going to be Ilya Mikheyev, and then he suffered a broken thumb and he's out for 2 months. So there's a lot of question marks on the wing, and there's some question marks there, perhaps maybe even a little bit with the goaltending. The defense should be about the same for the Leafs. So yeah, it's going to be tough to replace someone like Hyman, but I think from a cap standpoint, it just wasn't going to make sense to pay him what he ended up getting with the Edmonton Oilers. So I don't know if there is a direct replacement, and the indication has been that they're going to be shuffling a lot of the left wingers around, at least to start. But it's Nick Ritchie's role for the short term.
You mentioned the core, Tavares, Matthews, Nylander, of course, Marner. They're always going to be going to look for the fill-ins on those wings with those core tied up with those contracts. You mentioned Ilya Mikheyev. Is he just snake bitten? And we even heard rumors in the offseason that he wanted to leave. Is that still a possibility?
I don't think it's a possibility that he'll leave this year. He's only got 1 year left on his deal. And then at that point, it's anyone's guess what happens there. He's had some bad luck. He had that injury before the pandemic that where he, this kind of laceration, which was weird and took a long time to recover from. And then this is another long-term injury, although he had successful surgery earlier in the day, and it looks like, he's going to be on that road to try and recover. But yeah, he was a guy who reminded me a lot of Hyman, who was in the right place at the right time to retrieve a lot of pucks. So that's a guy you want to get to those other core players who are going to put the puck in the net. So that's the big loss for them there. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But Mikheyev, they're going to have to learn how to deal without having him for the short period.
Thank you for dropping by, David. If you got to go, you got to go. And it does look like Mikheyev. His nickname, it's so odd that they called him the Snake, because it seems like he's snake bitten. All in preseason, they started calling him the Snake. So it's really interesting. Back to David Dwork. They also locked up Sasha Barkov, right? So
yeah, 8-year deal, the richest contract the team's ever paid out.
But it's very deserving. We know that compared to the rest of the league. How do you think he's gonna change? Is he at all because of that contract and maybe more settled going in, knowing he's got that locked up and he's probably going to be a Panther for life?
I don't think this is the kind of thing that Sasha Barkov lets bother him, whether he was going into UFA. If he went that far, he's just not the kind of guy that lets that stuff get into his mind. He lets his agents handle that. And the Panthers are really lucky in that regard that they drafted a guy like Sasha, just because he's so happy here. He's just a genuine nice guy that just busts his ass, one of the hardest working guys that you're going to get on the team. And he just wanted the team to start winning. He just wanted to feel like, what he said in the press conference was, I wanted to win a Stanley Cup. I want to go, I see other teams making the playoffs, but I didn't want to leave to do that. I wanted to do that here. And now he's a part of where that's happening. So I think in terms of the deal itself, I think we can probably all agree that if Sasha would have gone UFA, he would have gotten a lot more than 10 million AAV. I think he gave the Panthers a little bit of a hometown discount in order to let them continue to build and put a little bit more money back into the roster. which hopefully you'll see pay off next summer when they start negotiating with Jonathan Huberdeau and see if they can get him locked up long term. But I mean, Barkov's going to be a Panther probably, I don't want to say probably for life because, he's still only 26 and 8 years from now, he's still probably going to have a few years of gas left in his tank. But to make that kind of a commitment long term to a team like the Florida Panthers, which let's be frank, nobody was making any kind of a commitment like that over the last couple of decades. To see the tide now changing in South Florida, it's really cool.
Oh, wow. It is really changing the tide, and some of those waves, they're pretty crazy down on the coast there. And you know what? I'm so glad that David Alter left. That guy just... No. He's not here to protect himself, so I can't go there. But no, I'm happy because we had two Davids on the panel, and I know I was going to get confused. Blaine, over to you. Again, I got to leave you last because I want the Leafs to beat them, so I want you to always be last. No, that's not the reason.
Is it 3-1 already?
3-1, or Tim's gonna get me with the 4-1.
4-1, yes.
Maybe David, do you want to kick the?
High five.
You want to kick the Leafs down 5-1 come this spring? Jeez. All right, Blaine. There's been some wild changes, and some of them we didn't expect with the Habs this offseason. The biggest one. There were so many. But I think it's always going to be Carey Price. We heard what people thought was, maybe, trickery with throwing that in there before Kraken had their, fantasy draft, their inaugural expansion draft, and throwing that out there that he's banged up and he might not play. And then we knew that maybe he could start the season. But without getting too much into what he's dealing with, and we wish him all the best. You don't have to touch on how long he could be out, but is Jake Allen and company up to replacing him?
Well, Price is going to be gone for a minimum of 30 days. So that right there, that's guaranteed. Is Jake Allen able to replace him? Judging by his performance last season, where he brought the Canadiens into the playoffs in a very injury with a team that had a ton of injuries and they had that really tight schedule. He still pulled it out and he got them in there. So yeah, I think Allen can fill the gap. I'm not saying he's going to get them to the top of the division, but they'll be able to tread water with him for sure.
How about Big Shea Weber? Man, that's I can start crying as, still I'm not a hardcore, growing up a Leaf fan or anything, but just seeing what the Habs have gone with, the fans, but of course the players within that dressing room, just within this offseason, it's been tough. Addressing the Shea Weber information that he'll gone. Again, how are they going to replace his big skates?
You can't. What he brought was more than just the on ice, which even at his advanced hockey age was still fairly impressive. Still able to eat up a ton of minutes. He was an intimidating presence on the ice. Played a very physical brand to the point where they've come back with this whole cross-checking rule because, I guess some of the Leafs were a little fed up for being tenderized. So to replace his on ice, they went out and got David Savard, who, as good as he is, he's no Shea Weber. The biggest issue is the leadership that's lost. That's going to be a big storyline through the season. There's hope that Gallagher could fill some of those shoes. Carey Price is a big leader in that room, but with him gone as well, Paul Byron's out with injury. So those are very big pieces in their leadership cadre, and it's going to be difficult to see how they can replace that. So that's going to be the start of the year is going to be a feeling out process, and there's a hope that people step into that vacuum, but that's a big gap to fill.
I'm going to have you back on the show, and we're going to break down more of that blue line and how they're going to look. And, of course, the veteran presence on this very youthful now team just out of nowhere. Tim, the goaltending over there on the East Coast, it's wow. We've had for years the tandems, and we're so used to Tuukka being back there. I know some Bruins fans are like, we can get by with Tuukka. No, you
Tell
can't.
me about it.
Oh my goodness. What is wrong with these people? We're not going to go there. But
Maybe save it for another show, maybe. I have no idea.
oh my goodness. But how are, I guess, the tandem of Linus Ullmark and Swayman going to do?
Yeah, well, they had some encouraging news with Jeremy Swayman. You look at his 10-game run last year when Halak was out for COVID reasons, and when Rask was nursing his hip injury. It was nothing short of extraordinary. The Bruins were still fighting for a playoff spot, and the way Swayman performed, and even Dan Vladar to a degree, they kept that team afloat when they easily could sink. And I think just being in that position allowed them to get Taylor Hall and Mike Riley at the trade deadline too. But in terms of Swayman, he's picked up right where he's left off in the preseason. Nothing else is telling me that with Ullmark, he's a bit shaky at times in the preseason, but I think it's just getting adjusted to new surroundings, actually having a pretty good team in front of him for once. And don't forget, he wasn't terrible in Buffalo last year as well. One of the only bright spots. So I think the Bruins see some intrigue in Ullmark, which is why they made the investment, a risky investment at that. But Swayman's the goalie of the future for sure, whether Rask comes back this year or even plays here for another year or two. It's Jeremy Swayman's team. I think it's going to start at the end of the season too. I think you'll see him, assuming they make the playoffs, be the number one guy.
You've heard it here, folks. Swayman is the man behind the pipes.
That's not to say they won't split, because I still see a 47-35 type of split in terms of starts. But Swayman, I think as long as he continues to traject upwards, is going to get the majority of the starts.
Before we go, David and Blaine, you can jump in. Do any of these teams, do the Florida Panthers have a chance at least taking that top spot against Tampa, or I guess maybe Toronto?
I mean, we'll see, right? If last night was any indication from what we saw from Tampa, there's probably a couple of holes there. I mean, we know that their bottom six isn't as reliable, let's say, as it was within the last couple of years. And we'll see. I mean, with Tampa, they've got the best goalie in the world. They've got some of the best forwards. They've got Nikita Kucherov, Steven Stamkos, Braden Point. They've got a very crazy lineup. Can the Panthers take that next step and challenge Tampa? I mean, we saw them go toe-to-toe in the playoffs last year. Florida should be improved this year over last year. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility. As for the other teams, I mean, I'll let you guys speak to your teams, but I will say I'm glad at least we're not going to have to deal with Carolina in the same division again this year.
Yes, that is going to be a little bit helpful. That Atlantic Division, it is tight. It is tight. If you look at the betting odds, Tampa's, of course, leading the way, just edging out Toronto. But Florida and the Bruins are right there. Montreal, a little bit dipped, of course, with those changes, Blaine. Do you think they have a good shot at least at the playoff spot? I know that's going to be tough. Or can they fight with these four teams?
Yeah, I think the Canadians can fight for a wild card spot. I do feel that Florida is ripe for taking the first place in the division, simply because they're a little bit more complete. Tampa's probably going to rest guys through the season because they're looking towards the playoffs more so. Toronto, well, they're a regular season team through and through, so they'll for sure make it. Montreal, it's the defense that's going to be the issue, but I think they have enough to make that wild card pitch. And what they do once they're there, that's a whole other story. But if they can just make the wild card spot, make the playoffs, I think that's a win for their season.
Thank you for joining me, gentlemen. Up next, it's the Metropolitan Division, right? Oh my goodness. I just blew my mind at the beginning. You can find these guys, David Dwork on Twitter at David Dwork, Tim Rosenthal at Bruins Daily, and my pal Blaine at Blaine Potvin _THW. Talk to you guys later. Have you ever wanted a one-stop weekly shop for expert analysis on every single NHL team? Look no further than jablamsports.com. We've had guests from James Sabalski, Ardo Cal, and yes, even Dennis Bernstein shows up monthly. We are a fun hockey community bringing everyone together. Find us wherever you get your podcast and type in JABLAM Sports. That's Jablam Sports. Our website is, yes, you've called it, jablamsports.com. Go download and subscribe right now. You can also find us on socials at Jablam Sports on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. I'm Peter Bojanov saying, puck you later. And now we go with the Metropolitan Division. I love saying Metropolitan. It makes me feel a little Metro something. All right. Joining me to analyze the division, of course, maybe preview and pick some breakout players. That's also going to be on the website. This episode page for jablamsports.com. Covering from the island, Joe Pantorno, right, Joe?
I'll take it.
And you're covering, of course, the Islanders.
Yes, sir.
You are a sports editor at AM New York. You can find him on Twitter at Joe Pantorno. From Raleigh, North Carolina, we've got Andrew Schnittke. He's the managing editor for SB Nations at Canes Country. You can find him on Twitter at aschnitt53. You want to spell that out for everybody, Andrew?
Sure, that's ASCHNITT53.
Boom. 53, we all know why. Canes 53, we all know why. And we've also got Ryan Gilbert. He's on that damn thing as well at our Gilbert SOP. And what does that stand for, people? That's Sons of Penn. Not going to say the real word. And of course, he's a Flyers guy. So Sons of Penn, we all know, means something else. And he's also the editor and NHL writer at Gambling Podcast. Oh my goodness. I'm full of energy. It's the last panel of the week for the first week of the season. It just started yesterday. I'm excited. Are you guys excited of the NHL season, Ryan?
I'm pumped up. We got 2 games last night. Nice appetizer, and we're going to be getting more going as the week moves on here.
Oh my goodness. It's hockey season, folks. And breaking down the teams we cover here, Ryan, you wrote on your article about previewing this division. We're gonna break it down again right now. It's on sportsgamblingpodcast.com. We'll also post it on our game notes for this episode. Again, things that we mentioned here, it's going to be on there. Episode 2, Season 7, jablamsports.com. Click on podcasts, and for this show specifically, and you'll also get that article. It's a tight division. We all saw the tight division last year in the bubble playoffs. What did they name this division again in the bubble playoffs?
I think it was just the East, right?
No, it was...
Yeah, it was
Or the Mass Mutual Eastern.
The Mass Mutual.
Okay.
I love it. The Mass Mutual. Oh, well, I'm Canadian. Mass Mutual, sure. Well, I don't know the company that well, but of course it's a huge company down there. A Mass Mutual division. And the division's tight. 5 teams are favored to make the playoffs. There's only so few teams that can get in. And the 6th team, as you said in the article, is plus 105. Where do you think the Flyers will end up? And who's probably the odd man out, Ryan?
I'll be your homer here. I do think the Flyers end up making the playoffs. I think they either pull it off with either the 3rd seed or get one of the wild cards there. I think 2 seasons ago, we really saw what the team can do in a regular season. Last season, kind of everything went poorly. So I think the Flyers get back in it and that 3rd spot or a wild card. And like you said, this division is very tight. I think I think one of the Penguins or Capitals. The time has finally ran out for one of them. You see, they have injuries early on with Crosby, Malkin, Ovechkin, Backstrom. Those are kind of the main four guys, and if those guys can't stay healthy, I think one of those two teams falls out.
Yeah, a lot of people are thinking it's the Caps year to fall out. Oh man, that's interesting. I do love that commercial with Ovi and Backstrom. Did you guys see that? Oh my goodness, Ovi's the best. You guys, no. I can't see that with you guys here, right? Ovi's not the best. All right, the guy's amazing. Sorry. Following up on that, just the Islanders seem like the obvious favorite, as the odds say. But who else has the best chance to compete for that, Joe?
This is the $1 million question here, because really this could potentially be a 5 or 6 horse race for the Metropolitan Division. I think it's a testament to how competitive the division is. I also think it's a testament to how a majority of those teams aren't exactly ready to take that next step per se, as in be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. So I do agree with, I guess, the odds makers. I think the Islanders are the favorite to win the division. I think the Carolina Hurricanes are right there, even though they might have experienced a downgrade in net, potentially on defense as well. And then it's sort of a toss-up. I think, teams 3 through 6 can be interchangeable, where you're right. The Penguins have shaky goaltending. The Capitals are taking a step back, dealing with injuries as well. The Rangers, we're not really sure what we're going to get from them. They have a ton of skill and finesse. Are they going to have the composure in terms of their bottom 6? It's sort of a toss-up. And obviously the Flyers, they made huge strides on defense. They don't have any shortage of skill in terms of scoring talent. I think Cam Atkinson might be one of the acquisitions of the year, at least in the Metropolitan Division. So this is really anybody's race. And again, 6 months from now, if you tell me that any of those teams won the division, I don't think I'd necessarily be surprised.
I want to jump in and get you, Andrew, in here, but you mentioned there, Joe, the Flyers made some interesting changes. You mentioned the forward there, but also that defense, big departures. And I don't know, the Flyers, are they using analytics? Are they using the Flyers? I don't know. Maybe they are, but it seems like it with Ryan Ellis and maybe Rasmus Ristolainen. How will those pairings shape up, and are they that much better now on the blue line, Ryan?
I think they are a ton better now on the blue line. We saw how good a right-handed veteran to go with Ivan Provorov in the top pair with Niskanen 2 seasons ago. They were kind of one of the top pairs there. So I think Ellis and Provorov is going to get right back to it, one of the top pairs. And you have Sanheim, who was kind of shaky last year, had a few bad games against the Rangers, but I think he's still a really good two-way defenseman. You pair Ristolainen with him, who's didn't really do too well in Buffalo, but now he's going to be in a more limited role. Hopefully he can kind of find his game there. And they also brought in Keith Yandel, too, who just replaces Shane Gostisbehere, older, more experienced, cheaper. So they brought in a lot of guys on the back end to help out, and should hopefully have a lot better goaltending this season as well.
Before I follow up on you and Andrew, I'm just going to leave you there. Ryan, turn your hat forwards if you have a second. I just want to see how that Flyers hat looks. Very nice, very pretty.
That is clean.
I love it. It's clean. I love that logo. I love all the old school logos. I'm sorry to the new teams. The Kraken, I will say, I like the away jersey. I like the mix of the different blues. I do like that. But damn, that is a nice jersey. I like it very much. Broad Street, let's go. But I do want to go again with the changes. Last year, the kid between the pipes got a hat. He didn't look that great. Can he rebound? And if he has another bad year, does that mean that he won't live up to the hype?
It's tough because last year it was a different season. The schedule was compressed. There wasn't much time to practice, and Carter Hart really got down on himself and had no time to kind of find himself or even find his game. But as we saw in his first 2 seasons, he put up much better numbers, much better performances. And even last season, after he had that little week layoff to kind of take his mind off the game, he came back and had 3 or 4 real solid games. So I think with the defense in front of him, he is going to be back on top of his game. But as you're asked, if he's not and has another down year, Martin Jones is backing him up. He's kind of getting up there in age too. So if he has another down year, the Flyers might be looking for goaltending next offseason. But hopefully that's not going to be happening.
Oh man, it's going to be an interesting year in Philadelphia. I can bet you that the Liberty Bell is going to be dinging all night long. But Andrew, the Hurricanes extremely favored to keep growing, possibly to get that second spot. I loved in the offseason. I love the tweets. Those damn jerks. The battle with Montreal in the offer sheet. Oh my goodness, it was so much fun. Why was this move the right move for the team to bring in Kasper Kotkaniemi on the short $6.1 million deal? 1 year.
Yeah, I think if you look at what the Hurricanes see in Jesperi Kotkaniemi and the opportunity that they had to get a player, I mean, first of all, look, the Hurricanes had their fun with the the press release, the carbon copy of the Mark Bergevin press release, and the tweets and the $20 signing bonus and all that, because that's what they do. That's their marketing team. That's their brand. That's their social team. That's how they interact with the fans. An NHL team did not go out and give up a first and a third round pick and $6 million for a player solely for revenge. I mean, this is a guy that the Hurricanes wanted. This is a guy who is, 2018, so 3 years removed from being the third overall pick, a guy who everybody saw a lot of potential in that 2018 draft. A guy who I think a lot of people have been really impressed with his skill in training camp, his shot, his playmaking. And I think obviously they gave him, I mean, he's not a $6 million player, but that's how offer sheets work. You have to overpay, or why would the team not just match? And I think the Hurricanes are betting on that potential. They're betting on playing him on the wing, which they've kind of done with, if you look at guys like Sebastian Aho and Martin Necas, who came in as centers. They tend to play their kids on the wing for their first couple of years in the league, kind of let them grow into that playing center. So that's what they're going to do with Kotkaniemi. I think they're going to play him in the top 6. He's played with some different guys throughout camp. I know in practice these past couple days leading up to the season opener, he's been on a line with Sebastian Aho and Martin Necas, which is a pretty good place to put someone if you want them to succeed. And I think obviously too, the Hurricanes are hoping that, if he shows that potential that they see in him, which the other thing you have to remember about that is that 2018 draft, the Hurricanes had the pick before he was taken that they used to select Andrei Svechnikov. So they had a lot of scouting and homework that they had done on him leading into that draft that they could fall back on. But I think they're hoping too that, he'll be eligible in January to sign a long-term extension, that they can make this a long-term relationship. Obviously a little bit more reasonable dollar amount now that they don't have to worry about offer sheeting him. But yeah, I think this is going to be on a team with honestly a plethora of interesting storylines to follow going into the season. This is definitely one of them.
I'll have you on the show later on in the season to break down more. Joe, I got a message. From my pal Rob Taub at the Isles blog. He gave me, and again, you can get everybody here and even more people on our episode page giving me their 1 to 8 for the division and a breakout player. Rob Taub sends me Scott Mayfield. I'm like, what, buddy? Scott Mayfield? What's he going to do this year? What do you think, Scott? Do you think Scott Mayfield's going to really have a big impact on the team? Who's your breakout impact player for this team?
Well, alluding to Scott Mayfield, this is a big year for him because the Islanders, due to their cap crunch, were forced to trade away Nick Leddy to the Detroit Red Wings to get that little bit of relief, which they were able to translate into retaining, I guess, their big boys per se, while also bringing in Zdeno Chara and Zach Parise. But this is the first time in a few years that Scott Mayfield's going to be playing with a different defensive partner. It's also going to be a 38-year-old Andy Green. So there is going to be a little bit more stress on Mayfield to, I guess, display a little bit more consistency, which has been his problem. And it's obviously a pretty difficult ask when you're playing the intense defensive kind of playoff style hockey that the Islanders bring every night. But in terms of my breakout player, I think there are going to be a lot of eyes, and I think a lot of people will agree with me on this, is Oliver Wahlstrom, who looks like he's finally getting sustained time. He's going to be placed on the third line. Given his skill set and the shot that he has, he could be that long-awaited sniper that the Islanders offense has been looking for, especially on the power play and special teams, which has kind of been the crux of this team's Stanley Cup chances over the last 2 seasons. And we really kind of saw it in both Stanley Cup semifinals against the Lightning. If the Islanders even had one little uptick of a better power play, it could be an entirely different story where we're talking about this team potentially repeating as Eastern Conference champions or making multiple consecutive Stanley Cup final appearances other than 2 semifinal appearances. So if Oliver Wahlstrom can come in and kind of provide that offensive spark that the team has been missing, so I guess the rumors of trying to go and get, say, a Vladimir Tarasenko can die down a little bit, that's going to be invaluable for them.
Wow. Yeah, we'll see. Tarasenko, big name, it could be out there. We'll see what he's got left too, like some of the other guys you mentioned. Andrew, I heard Harry Styles is joining the team. Is that true? Is Sebastian Aho and the rest of the team like Svechnikov? These characters on this team are fun, exciting. Of course, that guy too. Is Harry Styles joining the team? What's going on there?
No, I don't. Basically, yeah, what had happened was it first came on. It was actually Martin Necas's Instagram story. I guess Martin Necas is a huge Harry Styles fan. It was funny. We were actually recording our Canes Country podcast when this happened, and somebody posted a screenshot of the Instagram story, and my entire timeline was just in shambles about the whole Martin Necas and Sebastian Aho playing golf with Harry Styles. There were some good jokes on hockey Twitter. That was a good hockey Twitter day, but of course the team jump into it with like the whole Harry Styles huge Caniac thing. I guess he has a song called Carolina that they made a joke about. But yeah, I know Martin Necas went to the concert because there were pictures of him wearing the hat that says like Harry is my friend, I guess, and the Hurricanes gave him a jersey with Styles 21 for the year, which they've often done. PNC Arena hosts a ton of concerts, and they've often done that for performers. Those who can remember the infamous Jeff Skinner, Taylor Swift picture from many years back. But yeah, that was not a crossover that I expected to ever see, but it made for some good content.
It always is. And if you keep that train going, it's always helpful, and all the kids love it. Last but not least, I'm going to get Ryan in here. We saw Travis Konechny improve and get in there, but he's kind of plateaued. Joel Farabee looks like he could be that one. Is he going to plateau? Is he going to keep on getting better? We saw that big contract, $5 million.
Yeah, the Flyers have kind of some center issues right now, but their wings, they're very deep on. They have Travis Konechny, like you said, 2 years ago was really a breakout season for him. All-star appearance. It was like, okay, this is the Konechny we thought we were going to get when we drafted him back in 2015. Then last season, as with the rest of the whole Flyers team, he kind of took a step back a bit. He went long stretches without getting points. He put points up in bunches, then go invisible for a bit. But I think this season, he's back on the top line with Couture and Giroux. This is a line that had a lot of success 2 years ago. I think he's going to have a big bounce back year. And as far as Farabee is concerned, I am a little bit worried about having kind of a sophomore slump, even though last year was technically a sophomore season. Last year, he put up 20 goals. I think you could see that again in a full 82-game season. Maybe he won't go as high of a goal-scoring pace, but I think Farabee is going to be a good second-line player, maybe top line. There's a lot of mixing and matching there the Flyers can do.
Again, stopping by, gentlemen. You can find him on Twitter at @RGilbertSOP for Ryan, at @ASchnitt53 for Andrew, at Joe Pantorno for Joe. Remember again, if you want to see everyone's breakout picks for their team and their predictions for their division rankings, go to jablamsports.com and go to the episodes page. This was episode 2 for season 7. Gentlemen, again, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you. Always
Thanks for having me.
That was a fun episode recording both those segments. I hope you guys liked it. Both first episode and second episode for season 7. Breaking down and giving predictions for both conferences. Enjoy the season, folks. I really enjoyed talking some gossip to Harry Styles joining the Canes. Who knew it? I didn't know. But there's a lot of good characters on that Carolina team. Next week, I'm going to introduce to you some of the new members of Jablam Sports and, of course, the articles that are going to be going on our website weekly. It would be great to show you and introduce to you our team, including Rory Sumner. We will also go back to our regular scheduled programming, one episode a week, and we'll team ISO the Buffalo Sabres next week. Stay tuned for that. If you've enjoyed anything you've heard in this episode or don't, please tweet at me or even our guests. You can follow me on Twitter at @PBojaranov or the entire team at Jablam Sports. You can use the hashtag Jablam Sports. That's JABLAM Sports. If you want to also contact us on our website, go to jablamsports.com/contact. Also, you can find all our info for all our guests and our podcasts, for even game notes for each episode, including this one. You'll get guests info and links to all the things we mentioned on this show. We even have weekly content articles. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you get your podcasts, including Spotify. And of course, click on the 3 dots in your podcasting app and share this episode with 3 friends you know. Please and thank you. Jablam Sports Hockey is your one-stop weekly shop for every expert analysis on every single team. We are a fun community bringing everyone together. Follow us on Facebook. Thank you, everyone. And to every one of our listeners, we're giving you a virtual hug. Stay healthy, listen, be yourself, and stay strong.